Shalom Akim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, double honors and salutations to elders and apostle group, Mr. Well, and the Akim and the Howes and Brideways, preaching the word of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai, since 17 in truth. Alright, so I just got a short lesson, alright, just about the fourth kingdom. When you read Daniel chapter 2, talks about a vision of Nebuchadnezzar, about the kingdom, the image, the head of gold, brass, and the bronze, and all the, the 10 toes and all that, with iron and clay. So it just shows you, that that prophecy, that vision that the Lord, put in His mind, is what we still have today. It's the governing bodies, the governing bodies throughout the different ages on the face of the earth, and we're at the end of it now. The governing structure of Edom, which is the 10 toes, the EU, the NATO, European Union, all that. It's basically the 10 toes, the 10 common markets, European common markets. So yeah, it's just one of those things you have to be aware of. So I'm just going to read it and then play some short clip to give you some insight into it. Alright, so this is Daniel chapter 2 verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. What did they break in pieces and bruise? The different nations on the face of the earth. They had dominion over Jake, they had dominion over Ham, they had dominion over Japheth, dominion over Moab, Ishmael, dominion over Ammon. So that's how Esau's governing structure is. He has to dominate the whole world, and you see that, on the news when you're watching Bloomberg, watching CNN, Fox Business, and all that. You see how Esau's how he pulls the string of different economies on the earth. Okay, and then verse 41 says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. All right, because they're not on the same page. Partly strong and partly weak. And that's different, different vibrations, man. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. So that governing body, that governing structure is not gonna be as perfect, as it needs to be. You're gonna have these kinks, and that's where the clay comes in. The weaker European nations that cannot measure up to France, that cannot measure up to Germany, that cannot measure up to Switzerland, that cannot measure up to the United Kingdom. All right. Then it says in verse 42, and the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Yeah, and that's the reason why the EU had to fracture. That's why he had the Brexit. That's why the UK had that situation, because the elites that put together the so-called EU and NATO and all that, they already knew exactly what they are doing. So bundle them up together, and then they just step out, and when the economy is crashing, then they're able to maneuver. And that's a strategy that these elites like to use. You like to hold all the people together and make them think that they're moving together on the same page to get the same goals and to benefit together. But they're working at the back end, to have secret deals. And that's the reason why there is no unity, in the EU, because they see how the UK and France and Germany, even though they're stronger economically, but their so-called, strategy is not, looking good to the other smaller European Union countries. So they're just basically going along to get along because they need access to capital, access to loans and investments and all that. Because the stronger European nations, they control the World Bank, they control the IMF, they control the WHO, all right? And just imagine, they also control the so-called Bank of International Settlements, Swiss Bank and all that. They also control NATO, all right? So just imagine, what the smaller nations want to do, and they have to put it on hold because the bigger nations, the stronger nations, say nope. All right, and I'll play the clip real quick. It just shows you how the UK is able to make deals. That's one thing about making agreements. You have to be in a position of authority, to get the best end of the deal, and that's one thing these smaller European countries the opportunity do not have. That's why the UK is able to, move its weight in any direction that it wants, and it has America to back it up. Okay? So just imagine, they're pissed off that they're not able to make such a deal with Africa without going through UK, because it's just basically what you say, gang warfare, gang competition, they want a piece of the action. So when they trying to make a deal with an African nation, they have to go to the UK first. They have to go to the French. If they want to go over to South America, they have to check with America to see if everything's on good terms. And that's how it is. They have to check in. The smaller nations have to check in so they could have a piece of the pie. And when the time comes, they have to return the favor.
Britain and Africa, presenting a united front to the rest of the world like never before. "20 heads of state, business leaders, young entrepreneurs, and senior figures within the geopolitical landscape."
You see, this was before the so-called COVID hits. It was like years before that. So it just proves that, for a country to call a summit like that, they must have a lot of pull. All right, small countries like Norway, Belgium, they can't really, call African, so-called African leaders, heads of states, to their, to their capital. They call a meeting. It doesn't work like that. It's only like Germany can do that, UK can do that, France can do that, but the rest are just, they were lucky if they get like, 10, and that's one thing. That's why the smaller European nations envy, the bigger ones, and that's why they have to, tag along so they could get those crumbs, because when your UK has access to Africa's resources and capital and all that stuff, everybody else want to jump in and merge, with the smaller companies and all these other European nations want to merge with the UK and form a conglomerate to get in on the action.
All invited to meet with Prime Minister Boris Johnson with an aim to create a modern, more prosperous relationship between Africa and the world's fifth largest economy. UK-Africa trade
Yeah, that's just like a granddaddy.
Africa and the world's fifth.
Just like a granddaddy calling all his children, for a photo op. That's what's like, like the UK is like the granddaddy of of West Africa, of Africa as a whole. I just put it blunt there. All right, that's the reason why they have so much pull. They have so much pull. They don't want to get their hands dirty. They always talk with the French, and talk with the Belgians, talk with the America to shake Africa up. And that's what the Brexit is about. To have a position to support their agenda. For the centuries to come, and that's exactly what UK likes. They have to make sure that the sun never sets on their empire.
Largest economy. UK-Africa trade currently stands at an estimated £33 billion.
Africa is the future, and the UK has a huge and active role to play in that future.
Under the leadership of former UK Prime Minister Theresa May, Britain promised to be the largest G7 investor on the continent by 2022. That's just 2 years' time. In Nigeria and Ghana alone, British business is worth an estimated £82 million and is expected to increase significantly. State governors and business leaders from across Nigeria were in attendance and are positive about Britain's pledges.
I'm particularly thrilled by the Prime Minister's speech. He clearly made it open that there are opportunities for investment in Africa, as well as opportunities for balance of trade between UK and Africa.
Realize that
Yeah, there's not going to be no balance of trade, because there is no balance of power. All right, that's one thing. Judah, Benjamin, Levi in Africa has to understand. Even Ishmael understands that. These Ishmaelites understand what trade is about. That's why they stick together to some point, and then all of a sudden it falls apart. But for Jake, it's hard for them to stick together from the get-go. But through the spirit of Hamashiach Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kadash, they understand what's going on. So the Lord is going to make Jake stick together, but they're going to pay the price. And that's the reason why the Lord Yahushua has to come back and deliver Jake from wherever, the nation of Israel, wherever they are, whether it's in South America, North America, Canada, Africa, Asia, Europe, whatever, so they don't have to, be wiped off the face of the earth for not going along with the image of the beast. All right. So another precept is going to be from the book of Daniel, chapter 7. I'm going to read verse 20 and 21. Yeah, so it says, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the order which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spake very great things. That's talking about America, whose look was more stout than his fellows. Right. So the British, the French, and the Spanish, they gave way for America to take control of this side of the world, the Western Hemisphere. And that's why they always come to America to to pitch their agenda, because America is basically the juggernaut that goes in there and bulldoze the competition, bulldoze the the inhabitants of a certain territory where there's resources, and then the so-called so-called 3, they get up in there, the UK, the French, and the Spanish. They get up in there and then they start to structure the deals, So America is basically the front man, for the 3. All right. So they all work in cahoots. All right. So just have to be aware of that. And then verse 21 says, I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. So wherever Jake is, they don't really have the power, the military structure, technology to come against Esau. So just imagine, you know, America is just going to crush Jake, crush Judah, Benjamin, Levi in West Africa, or whatever they are, and the Northern Kingdom, so-called Latinos and Native Americans here in the Americas. So you can't really compete with Esau on an economic level on the war for resources. But when it comes to the words of Hamashiach Yahushua Ba'ashem Kakadash, Esau can't hold no ground. And that's the reason why he's falling apart. Because the spiritual realm, the spirit of the Lord Yahushua, is putting Esau back where he belongs. His kingdom is fallen, and our people are waking up to who they are. And Esau is upset that he cannot defeat us in the spiritual world. So he has to wage physical war against us, so he could retain that so-called blessing that he has, dominion over the whole face of the earth. All right. And then you play the video some more. All right. So that's the so-called president of Nigeria.
As all fingers are not equal, some are actually just taller than the others. And he had actually also said that there's really no exclusivity anywhere.
If we're able to bring in investors, more investors, it will lead to the economic development of the state. When there's economic development, it will translate to individual prosperity.
I think post-Brexit, the British government needs more emphasis on Africa. And considering what one has seen by way of the organization behind what we are witnessing here now, clearly Britain takes Africa very seriously.
In just 11 days.
Yeah, right. That's the reason why they're gonna, push that vaccine so hard. They're already pushing it. And then they're gonna push the mark of the beast. Right now, he's so pushing his image. So when they start to buck up, all of a sudden, Drake is gonna feel the heat in Africa, man. Because Esau understands what's at stake, but Drake in Africa don't really know what is really going on, man. All they hear is just New World Order this, New World Order that, but they don't really see things from a biblical perspective according to prophecy. The tension between the house of Israel and the house of Edom. And that's what it boils down to, And Esau's taking advantage of the opportunity, because when he has our nation at his beck and call, he's able to do certain things. And our nation can't retaliate. We can't, maneuver out of his grip. And that's the reason why the Lord Yahushua is coming back to break Esau's grip, his stranglehold from off our neck, from off our nation. All right.
Britain will be leaving their biggest trading bloc, the European Union. And of course, they've got to find new investment elsewhere.
When you see that, you're leaving one to go to another. Well, not really. They're just playing games because they want to dominate both sides. Because when you have the market for raw material cornered, then what's your so-called competition going to do? They have to submit to your terms. Just like a loan shark. When it's already put other loan sharks out of business, and it's the only loan shark on the block. Folks will have to pay that, servicing fee, or what you call usury, or what you call a corporation fee, and exclusivity to certain deals, and that's what it's all about, They're working on these deals behind closed doors. You have corporations planning how they could get more control of gold, of rubber, oil, and platinum and coltan and cocoa and all that good stuff, So that's the reason why the UK chose the Brexit move, because they know that they have to pull it off, at a certain point in time, so they could propel themselves forward for another 200, 300, 1,000 years, but that time is about to be cut short. Okay, so another precept is going to be from the book of Revelation, chapter 17. Yeah, because Elder Tahar, Apostle Tahar talked about, brothers should go into the so-called Brexit. So this is just another installation, another installment in addressing that situation, that prophecy. So this Revelation chapter 17, verse 10, it says, "And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space." And that's the EU right there. Okay? And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7th. All right? And that's all right. And that tells you that America comes out of Britain. There's a scripture right there. And goeth into perdition. So America is on its way out. You see all the the EU nations and NATO nations, having a bone to pick with America because they know that America has outlasted, you know, her usefulness. America is no longer worth what they claim it's worth anymore. So all they gotta do is just close up shop. And that's the reason why they're pushing this so-called reset button. The reset button is not to reset, America's economy. It's for them to reset their agenda, reset, regroup for the next, phase of rulership that they're preparing for. And that's what it's all about. It's a new rulership without America at the forefront doing the dirty work, because they're going to use America to start World War III, even with the Amalek over there in the land of Israel, and even Turkey too. All right, so they have to start something, and America is going to be the one to bear the brunt out of it. And verse 12 says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings." All right, talking about NATO, which have received no kingdom yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. All right, so NATO and EU, they're gonna have to come together so they could have dominion, and that dominion is started way back in 1948. And the in action for about when it talks about the 42 months, 2.5 years and all that, and prophecy, it just tells about the prophecy for the year 2000. And then you have Revelation chapter 7 talking about the angels holding back the 4 winds. So just link those two together. And then verse 13 says, "These have one mind, and they shall give their power and strength unto the beast." So now the beast is falling apart. The EU is falling apart because you read the book of Daniel chapter 2, 40 to 43, talks about the 10 toes, iron mixed with clay and all that, partly strong and partly broken. You can't last, so it's going to fall apart. And the Lord's coming to destroy the toes, man. It's coming to crush those toes, and it says, and a great millstone crush those toes, destroy those governments, from the head of gold all the way down to the 10 toes and all that stuff. Okay, and then final precept would be from the book of Revelation chapter 13. I'm going to read that from 13 to 15. It tells you, this is verse 11. Okay, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." So that's America. Okay, it looked kind of, gentle and all that, but really, really, really terrible and violent. And then it says the 2 horns represents the 2 political parties, the so-called Democratic and so-called Republican parties. And he exercised all the power of the beast before him, all the power of the EU, because he's basically their so-called gate watcher, okay, and caused the earth and them which dwell in to worship the first beast, whose deadly wounds was healed. So they have to, causing the whole world, the people of the world, to go along, with the EU's agenda. That's why the EU is the most powerful bloc, group of nations on the face of the earth. Even though they are divided, they're still strong. Okay? And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire to come down from heaven and on the earth. Come down from Alright, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire to come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. So all these technologies, and Esau has this, it's using it to put the smaller nations in check, so that they can go along. So they must go along with the beast, the EU's agenda. But it's not really going. It's not really the EU's agenda. It's the powerful nations of the EU. Okay, and then it says in verse 14, and deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. Okay, then they need to go along with the program. Okay, they need to structure their government, their rulership pattern after the UK, after France, after EU, and all that stuff, assemblies and parties and all that stuff, democracy, whatever they want to call it. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause it that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So when these so-called African nations don't want to get along with the EU, they're going to be whooped into shape, and that's the reason why they have to, mark the territory and see how they could curve things out and, beat these people to powder and dominate them. And that's what it boils down to. They want to withhold aid, medication and all that stuff. And they also have powers to destroy lands. They have, weapons, different type of weapons, whether it's biological, radiological, chemical, technologies, all this weather control and all that stuff. That's how Esau is, control the weather, so that so-called African nations don't want to go along. Start experiencing famine and droughts and floods and, tsunamis and all that, causing earthquakes to happen. So that's how terrible, the beast is, Esau, so it's able to put these nations, So just imagine, one person is in a position of authority, a position of, to dominate the conversation, while others are just basically there to make and mark attendance. But they could complain, they could grumble, but at the end of the day, when they can't resist, they have to comply. And that's the reason why it says that when they don't want to worship the image of the beast, they gotta go down, they gotta be squashed. If they don't want to go along with the new world order, they're going to be destroyed, and that's what the Brexit is about. It's about laying down a brick, laying down a foundation for the new order of the elites, so they could have more control. So that was the point there, Hakim. I'm not going to ramble and run my mouth that long, because you just have to understand that the beast take his image seriously, his doctrine, his projection. His image basically how he wants things to be. Just like in the book of Genesis, when he talks about, the Lord made the man, in his image and all that. That's what the beast also wants to do. He wants to make the nations, worship him and do things according to his will. So hope you've been edified, and I pray that the Lord will give us more revelation, understanding, and wisdom of current world events. Shalom.